Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the December Finance and Budget Committee meeting of the Washington County Quorum Court to order. I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening. I have asked J.P. Duncan to do the prayer and pledge.
I'd say please stand, but it looks like everyone has. Please bow your heads with me. Father God, you're good and holy. Lord, we're thankful for Christ Jesus and his perfect life and death on the cross for our sins and resurrection. God, I pray for the court. God, give us wisdom as we make decisions on behalf of the county and our constituents. Lord, I pray our conversation is pleasing to you. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, J.P. Duncan. Do I have any motions on our agenda tonight? Motion to adopt? Motion to adopt by J.P. Johnson, second by J.P. Wilson. All those in favor?
Aye.
The agenda has been adopted. Before we get into our reports tonight, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank all of you, ladies and gentlemen, on our committee this year, putting the work into all of our budgets this term. I really appreciate it. I know that, we probably speak from biased lens, but finance and budget can be one of the more challenging and time-consuming committees, and I appreciate each one of you. I think you've all contributed very well to this. I'd like to also thank all of our staff and all the people that work in the judge's office and the elected officials who we call on for information and input and for always being accommodating to us, and I really, really appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to move into our monthly reports. First up, Treasurer Hill.
Right into it. 4.1, the Treasurer's Financial Summary. If you look at the top line, $7 million in revenues compared to $4.4 million in expenditures. That was mainly due to our big October tax settlement that came in November. Down the road fund, revenues were over expenditures. Jail was a little under that, 2.2 to 1.8. We did have 3 payrolls this month, so that kind of amped up the expenditures a little bit. The second page, if you look at the 6002 collectors unapportioned line, 23 million in it. That's the 10% taxes that are held back throughout the year. We will, beginning this month and over the next month or two, we'll get rid of all of that to the county schools and cities. And that's where we always talk about the assessor and collector paying general back for their expenses. That's the fund that comes out of. And at the end of this report, 102 million beginning balance, 113 million ending balance. 4.2, county general property taxes received. Like I just said, we got that $6 million October tax settlement. We got one more month to go. If you look at past history, we'll probably get another $1 million in. And that'll give us $17.6 million for the year. 4.3, the ARPA report. The ending balance as of November 30th was a little over $19 million. We have about $14 million of that unobligated. The main thing that happened in November was we finished up the current obligation to returning home, $1.6 million. 4.4, 1 cent sales tax. Again, sales tax continues to impress. 12% this month over last year at the same period. 870,000 came in. 4.5, the quarter-cent jail tax. Same percentage increase. 1.3 million came in, and for the year we're almost 1.7 million above 2021. 4.6, half-cent road tax. Doing very well, 12% increase, 207,000 came in, and for the year we're up right at 17%. That's all I have.
Questions for Treasurer Hill? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 5 is our employees' insurance report. Mr. Angel couldn't be here this evening, but our HR director, Ms. Burchett, has said she'll help us out with the report this evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, so our October employee and employer funding was $358,547. October pharmaceutical rebates were $87,100. October's total plan cost was $503,324. The total difference in October of '23 was $57,677, and the ending account balance was $3,105,262.94. Did everybody get all those numbers? Any questions? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Item number 6, our comptroller's report. Ms. Hinkle could not be here tonight, and so she sends her regrets, but the report's in the packet, and if anybody has any questions about it, please email her. And with that, I'm going to move into new business. Item number 7 is an ordinance recognizing additional revenue of $156,755.62 and appropriating $156,755.62 from the unappropriated reserves of the general fund to the various line items in the sheriff's budget and jail budget for 2022. These are reimbursements that the sheriff's department gets for working special events. This is recognizing that money and returning it back to those budgets. Any motions? I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Simons. Second by J.P. Duncan. Any further discussion? Public comments? I have a motion to pass item number 7 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Simons, second by J.P. Duncan. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 7 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 8, an ordinance recognizing revenue of $42,611.18 in the general fund and appropriating said $42,611.18 to the various line items in the buildings and grounds budget for 2022. The state uses our armory building, and that's what houses the parole division of the state. This is us recognizing some reimbursements and revenue from that and reallocating this to the buildings and grounds budget. Discussion or motions? J.P. Duncan?
Move item number 8 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass item number 8 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan.
Can I speak on that? If you look at item number 22, I didn't know that item number 8 was on there, and that monies is included into item number 22. So if you wanted to not pass number 8, I mean, I'll take the money, don't get me wrong, but I accounted for that money in the appropriation ordinance for number 22.
Okay. J.P. Duncan.
I'll withdraw the motion and request that we strike it from the agenda.
Okay. I have a motion to strike item number 8 by J.P. Duncan. Second by J.P. Usry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item number 8 will be struck. That's one way to take care of it. Item number 9, an ordinance levying the county, municipal, and school district taxes for the year 2022. This is an ordinance that we pass every year. It must be, but by state law, it must be passed in November, December, and this levies are, like it says, the municipal, county, and school taxes for the next year. Discussion or motions? Have a motion to pass the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Usry. Second by J.P. Wilson. Any further discussion or questions? J.P. Simons.
Thank you, Chair. Has there been any changes in the proposed millage rates for any of these?
No, this will specifically mirror what we passed last year.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Public comments. Okay, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 9 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Ussery, second by J.P. Wilson. All those in favor? Those opposed? Item 9 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 10, an ordinance appropriating $750,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act Fund to the Sheriff's Office Jail Maintenance Fund for 2023. Before consideration of this, I need to make a motion that we amend this ordinance to make it consistent with other ordinances that we're passing from the ARPA funds. I need to strike "to the Sheriff's Office Jail Maintenance Fund for 2023" and replace with "to the American Rescue Budget for 2023." So that's a motion to amend. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by J.P. Duncan. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The motion has been, or the ordinance has been amended. As amended, the ordinance reads, an ordinance appropriating $750,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act Fund 3046 to the American Rescue Budget for 2023. Any motions or discussion? J.P. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I move we pass this to the quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Johnson, second by J.P. Duncan. Any discussion or comments? Public comments.
Hello, Elizabeth Koger, Fayetteville, Arkansas. My comment on this would be that it shouldn't come from ARPA funds, that it should come from the county general fund or the county reserves, because the ARPA money was intended to be used for the community and it hasn't been. And that I would like to see this money. If I have no problem with the sheriff getting this. It's just that it needs to come from the county general fund, not the community's ARPA money.
Thank you. Public comments. Okay, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 10 as amended by J.P. Johnson, second by J.P. Duncan to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. Item number 10 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 11. An ordinance appropriating $74,400 from the unappropriated reserves in the general fund to the various line item budgets in the Circuit Court 8 budget for 2022. I know it seems like a lifetime ago, but if we remember, as part of getting Judge Warren's court and offices set up late in 2021, we had passed this amount to outfit her staff and do some office renovations to get that ready. That work was not completed before the end of 2021, and so now it's rolled to us. And so this ordinance essentially mirrors that, but she needs that put back in her budget to complete that work. Discussion or motions?
I move we pass item number 11 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Second.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Ussery. J.P. Simons.
Is she gonna have time to complete that work in this calendar year, or do we need to potentially push that toward her 2023 budget?
I think it's already been done.
Okay.
I think she needs this put into her budget to cover up some spending she's already done. Yep. Any more discussion? Public comments? I have a motion to pass item number 11 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Ussery. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 11 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 12, an ordinance appropriating $14,144.56 from the unappropriated reserves in the Circuit Court Automation Fund to the small equipment line item in the Circuit Court Automation Fund or budget for 2022. These were new cameras paid for out of the Court Automation Fund. We're just moving that out and approving that expenditure into the court budget. Motion or discussions? J.P. Duncan.
I move we pass item number 12 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
Have a motion to pass the full quorum court with a do pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Simons. Any discussion or questions? Public comments? We have a motion to pass item number 12 to the full quorum court with a do pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Simons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 12 will move to the full quorum court with a do pass recommendation. Item number 13, an ordinance anticipating $3,098.56 and recognizing $3,018.61 additional revenue and appropriating $6,117.17 from the unappropriated reserves of the general fund to the various line items of the DEM budget for 2022. This, like the sheriff's ordinance, is to reimburse the Department of Emergency Management for doing some special events. This is recognizing that money and returning it to the DEM budget. Discussion or motions?
I move we pass item number 13 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
Motion to pass the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan. Second by J.P. Usry. Additional comments, discussion? Public comments? I have a motion to pass item number 13 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Usry. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 13 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 14, an ordinance anticipating additional revenues in the amount of $805,300 in the DEM grant fund and appropriating the amount of $805,300 from the DEM grant fund to the various Homeland Security budgets for 2023. This is a grant that we received from the Arkansas Department of Emergency Management, and we, once again, we fund some of our Homeland Security budgets through it. So this is receiving that money and allocating it to the various budgets. Motions or discussion?
Move we pass item number 14 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
Motion to pass item number 14 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Simons. Any further discussion or questions? J.P. Usry?
Thank you very much. I'd just like to say that we really do appreciate chasing grants like this and all the work that goes into getting it. And I think that's a job well done.
Great. Further discussion? Public comments? Take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 14 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Simons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 14 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 15, an ordinance appropriating $3 million from the unappropriated reserves of the general fund to the general reserve fund in the Washington County budget for 2022. This is an ordinance that we've done over the past 2 or 3 years, an idea that came to us from Treasurer Hill when we get an accumulation of funds in our general fund. We move it over to a reserve account that I view as kind of a savings account. So it's still there fully for the quorum court to allocate. We just move it into a different account so that we can track it separately. So motions or discussion? J.P. Simons.
Make a motion, we pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Simons.
Second.
Second by J.P. Duncan. Any further discussion or questions? Any public comments? Okay, we'll take up the question. Item number 15, I have a due pass recommendation from J.P. Simons, second by J.P. Duncan. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 15 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 16, an emergency ordinance authorizing the county to do business with county employee Cassandra Fields. If you read this ordinance, it appears that Division 8 had a open house, and one of the ladies that works for Division 8 prepared a cake for that event. And we have policies in this county that prevent us from doing business with county employees unless they're under extraordinary circumstances. So, motions or discussion? I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Ussery. J.P. Johnson?
Is this an after-the-fact ordinance?
I believe so.
What's that say about the policy?
I'm sorry, I don't have that amount. It was, HR director says it was about $100. J.P. Johnson.
$100.
So I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Ussery, a reluctant second by J.P. Johnson. Any further discussion or questions? Any public comments?
I'll just say I had some of the cake and it was delicious.
That's good. That's good. All right. Any further public comments? All right. I have a motion to pass item number 16 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Ussery, second by J.P. Johnson. All those in favor? Those opposed? Item number 16 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 17, an ordinance appropriating the total amount of $5,587,815.08 from the unappropriated reserves in the radio sales tax fund to the various line items in the radio sales tax budget for 2022. As we know, we've been in the middle of our radio upgrade. This is to move some of the money out of the revenue account over to the budget so that we can start paying some of the bills. I had a discussion with Chief of Staff Lester today, and where we're at with that is the towers have been constructed and they're trying to get the equipment up on the towers. And within the next couple weeks, they're gonna buy a small allotment of the radios so they can start trying to implement those and get everything calibrated, if you will. So, motions or discussion on this? I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Wilson. Second by J.P. Duncan. Any further discussion or questions? Public comments? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 17 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Wilson, second by J.P. Duncan. All those in favor? Those opposed? Item number 17 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 18, an ordinance de-appropriating surplus amounts from the full-time salaries for various departments and restoring the unappropriated reserves as required by the 2022 budget controls for the third quarter of 2022. This is our unused salaries account. We have a sweep in place that will sweep those amounts that have been budgeted back to the general fund. J.P. Simons.
The item number 50, or I'm sorry, line item number 53, that's the American Rescue Plan Director's salary? Is that what that 17,970 is referring to?
I don't think that is what that is. I believe what that is, if you remember, we have passed premium pay that has not been fully exhausted.
Gotcha.
And so I think there's still amounts over there that we pull back into general funds.
Okay, thank you.
Discussion or motions? I have a motion to pass the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Wilson, second by J.P. Duncan. Any further discussion? Any public comments? Seeing none, I'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 18 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Wilson, second by J.P. Duncan. All those in favor? Those opposed? Item number 18 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 19, an ordinance recognizing additional revenue in the amount of $2,600 in the AOC Juvenile Court Grant Fund and appropriating $2,600 from the AOC Juvenile Grant Fund to the Computer Services line item of the AOC Juvenile Court Grant Budget, item 22-0-130. So this is a grant I think we get quite frequently we get grant monies from the AOC quite frequently, and this is us accepting that and moving it, allocating it to the computer services line item. Motions or discussion?
Move we pass item number 19 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
Motion to pass to the full quorum court by J.P. Duncan. Second by J.P. Ussery. Further discussion or questions? Public comments? Take up the item. Item number 19, we have motion to pass the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Ussery. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 19 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 20 comes to us from the Jails and Law Enforcement and Courts Committee meeting from last night. There was an amendment made last night, so this is as amended from the original packet that went out for our meeting. So I believe you were all provided a copy of that in your folder tonight. So the amendment was much like the earlier ordinance we saw. We're replacing the Sheriff's Office Jail Maintenance Fund and instead moving that money to the American Rescue budget for 2023 so that we can accommodate the special tracking and expense reporting of that particular item. Motions or discussion? J.P. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think this is the amended motion in this packet.
Correct. I think you were provided a new one
Was that?
in your folder tonight.
You are correct. Thank you. I move that we pass this to the quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
Okay. Motion to pass the full quorum court with due pass recommendation by J.P. Johnson.
Second.
Second by J.P. Duncan. Discussion. J.P. Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the question I have is, where did this number come from? Is there an itemization of that number? Because it's pretty exact. The $8,812,332.75. How did we arrive at that number?
I'll invite anybody from the Sheriff's Office that wants to supplement me here, but this was from a earlier study that we had done for the COVID expansion, and that we had offset some of that from the original architectural costs, and this is the balance of that. So, Chief Deputy Contrell, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Chairman. The architect and engineering firms that we hired came up with an estimate on what it would cost to build this, and their estimate was, with the COVID contingency of 10% built in, was $19,900,000 and some change. So we've spent $1,007,000 in architect and engineering fees. So that's a portion of the remainder that's left for the project. So that's based on their estimate of what it will cost to put the building together.
Further questions? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Public comments, or, sorry about that, I'm watching you walk up, I'm still. JP Hires.
Thank you, JP Dickens. I'm curious, so we spent 1.7 million of it already. We're asking for 8.8 million, and then the total cost is expected to be 19 million. So I'm just curious where the other 10 million is expected to come from.
The original figure, what we've spent so far was $1,007,000.
Okay.
And the rest of it is going to come from item number 21, which is our $10 million replacement fund.
Cool, thank you.
No problem. JP Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know last night at the jails meeting, you had a lot of input
excuse me, public comments, but one of the concerns that I have is that there is no doubt that we do need to address overcrowding in the jail. That's a no-brainer. Now, the way that it needs to be done, there are two options: either create more space or decrease people. And I just feel like as a body that we haven't seriously explored the ways that we could decrease the population, because even if we build a jail, that still is not going to be immediate release. It's not going to help us next month or not even next year. If I remember from earlier meetings, there were speculations that it could take a couple of years. And so I know we've been talking about this like for 3 years, 4 years, however many years I've been on the court. But I really wish that we would explore some of the other options. We know that we can safely and responsibly decrease the jail population because we did that during COVID. And so rather than rushing to build a new jail, or rather than using these funds that could potentially be used for something else, I really would like to see us try to exhaust all of our other options before we do this. There were, in one of the earlier meetings, we made the comments to let the people decide, and the people did vote against this. And I think that if we pass this and if we continue, that we're going to decrease the confidence that our voters have in us as a body. They trust us to make the decisions that are best for the county. They trust us to reflect what their thoughts and opinions are on these things. And overwhelmingly, the people of Washington County said that they didn't want any type of jail expansion, and definitely did not, well, what they said was they didn't want a tax for the jail expansion. And so I would just ask that we consider that and that we look at other options, maybe even the option that was presented last night with the other pretrial services. So I would just ask us to do that. And I would like to amend the motion that we table this indefinitely.
Okay, I have a motion by J.P. Washington to table indefinitely. All right, that'll die for a lack of second. Further discussion? J.P. Simons?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, J.P. Washington. I've said this before, and my feelings really haven't changed on this. I don't think this is an this or that. I think it's going to take a collaborative effort of both pretrial services and infrastructure improvements. That we're obviously a growing county, and we have an existing issue that's only going to continue to exacerbate. So I think we absolutely, as a body and with attention on the recommendations of this CJCC, continue looking at pretrial services. That needs to be a priority, but we already have an issue, and we're behind the 8 ball on infrastructure development that's not even going to help the issue until we get this thing built. So that could be another year to two. So yes, pretrial services are definitely needed, and I think it's something that this body needs to focus on moving into 2023, but that shouldn't be something that holds us up from making infrastructure improvements in the meantime. And to the point of funding, the citizens in Washington County voted no to be taxed again to pay for these improvements. They've already been taxed. The federal government, the state government, the county government has taken this money out of their pockets and entrusted this to us in the form of ARPA. And this is what, depending on the will of this body and the quorum court as a whole, we're choosing to give them their value, right? I don't blame them for not wanting to, not passing an additional tax. They've already been taxed. Let's put that money to good use. Let's address an existing issue and continue to address that issue in a myriad of effective ways. So I've studied on the final rules. I've had questions on whether or not this 8.8 is an eligible expense. I have done research on what other counties across the nation are utilizing this money for, and multiple counties are using these dollars in similar ways. And I feel not 100%, but I feel that we can justify our expenditures on this, and I feel comfortable moving this to the quorum court with a do pass recommendation.
Thank you, J.P. Simons. Further discussion by the body? If not, I'll open it up for public comments. Public comments? Please state your name and where you're from.
Gladys Tiffany, Fayetteville. And I'm really grateful to hear you support the need for the pretrial services, J.P. Ussery. I do want to repeat, as has been said by many people, that this is something that is a very contentious issue in our community, and to have the court go against the will of the voters within weeks of the vote passing looks really, really bad for our court. And I think you really need to take very seriously the way that this appears to your voters, because this is not something that is going to be just a flash in the pan that's going to go away. People will remember that that vote that they took in great seriousness, not just for the issue of tax, but also because they feel like there are better ways to deal with the jail population than only having more space. And those people are serious that they do not want to see a jail expansion happen. So you can't just brush that aside and pretend it doesn't happen, because that is a real, valid consideration in our community. But I want you to very carefully consider these things as you are getting ready to vote on it.
Thank you. Public comments?
Good evening. Elizabeth Coger, 3661 Embry Drive, Fayetteville, Arkansas. My comment is I'd just like to kind of go back for a bit to 2019, when this court commissioned and paid for the Criminal Justice Assessment Study by the National Center for State Courts, and we got that. It was delayed somewhat, but when we were here in this room discussing whether or not we were going to do that, a lot of people on this court had concerns about how long the study would take. Some people thought 6 months was too long. Some people thought 12 months was too long for the study. Well, we got the study in 2020, and so far, what have we done? What has this court done? We have formed the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, which has not been very effective to date. What we could do, we could be implementing the pretrial services, which we heard last night, which cost us around $600,000. We could implement the mental health court, which was another recommendation of the Criminal Justice Assessment Study, for around $300,000. I'm talking annually. And we could have a sobering center in Washington County for around $360,000 annually. All these are a lot cheaper and a lot better use of money than building extra jail beds. And someone mentioned that about the population growing, and so that's why we need a new jail, but statistics don't hold that out. From 2013, our crime rate has gone down, and it certainly has not grown with the population, with the amount of as the amount of population has grown. Another thing that I'd like to point out is, I'm going to go back to what I've said many times before, but I want to get it on the record again. It is not a legal use of ARPA money to expand the jail. And the Treasury final overview and the final rules issued by Treasury presumes that the following capital projects are generally not eligible: construction of new correctional facilities as a response to an increase in rate of crime, and construction of new congregate facilities to decrease the spread of COVID-19. So that's pretty clear. And just because there's other places across the country who are doing that, that doesn't mean that we should do it. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's illegal, it's illegal. So using that money for the jail expansion is it goes against the ARPA rules. and the regulations from the federal government. And if we misuse money like that and the government comes back and determines that, we're gonna have to repay that money. So there's gonna be people somewhere down the line who are going to have to address that. The next issue I'd like to bring forward is the vote. The people of Washington County defeated the jail expansion.
Thank you, Ms. Koger. Your time's expired. Appreciate it. Additional public comments?
Would you like to extend it?
No, I wouldn't. Additional public comments? Seeing none, we'll take up the item. I have a motion to pass item number 20 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Johnson, second by J.P. Duncan. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. Item number 20 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 21. In consistency to our previous ordinances, I need to make a motion to amend this ordinance. I need to strike the last half where it's talking about the account to the General Reserve Fund in the Washington County budget for 2022 and replace that with to the American Rescue budget for 2023. That's a motion to amend. Second by J.P. Duncan. All those in favor? The ordinance will be amended. So now I need a discussion or motion to pass the ordinance as amended. J.P. Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we pass this to the quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Johnson.
Second.
Second by J.P. Duncan. Further discussion or questions? Okay, I'm going to open up public comment. Public comments on item number 21.
I'm Jennifer Flanagan. I live in Fayetteville, and I just want to point out that it's very obvious how you guys are just moving money around so that you can get what you want that we have said that we don't want multiple times. So
Thank you.
we see what you're doing.
Thank you. Public comments. Further public comments. We're going to take up the question. Item number 21 as amended, I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Johnson, second by J.P. Duncan. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. Item number 21 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 22, an ordinance appropriating $260,000 from the unappropriated reserves in the general fund to the various line items in the buildings and grounds budget for 2022. As you can see in this ordinance, if you remember, there was an unfortunate incident at the Armory a few months ago where a parole officer was stabbed. There were some additional security improvements put into that building, and then also in general buildings and grounds is having to cover higher rates of utilities and fuels and insurance. And so this is to move money to their budget to make that whole. Any further discussion or motions? J.P. Duncan.
I move we pass item number 22 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
Motion to pass the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Usry. Any further discussion or questions? Public comments? Seeing none, we'll take up the item. I have a motion to pass item number 22 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Usry. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 22 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Agenda item number 23, an ordinance appropriating $20,000 from the unappropriated reserves in the flex spending fund to the flex spending budget for 2022. As everyone knows, we're self-insured. We have some claims in this. We think we're a little short, but this is moving from a reserve account from the flex spending to the flex spending budget for the year. Questions or motions? J.P. Duncan.
I move we pass item number 23 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
Motion to pass item number 23 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Wilson. Further discussion? Questions? Public comments? Seeing none, we'll take up item number 23. I have a motion to pass the full quorum court with a do pass recommendation by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Wilson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item number 23 will move to the full quorum court with a do pass recommendation. J.P. Duncan.
I move that we add the following items to the consent agenda for the quorum court meeting. Item number 7, item number 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 22, and 23. All items passed unanimously tonight.
I think I got it. Check me and let's go through it slowly for our.
Yeah, I'll go through one more time. Item number 7, item number 11 through 19, and then items 22 and 23. Again, that's item number 7, items number 11 through 19, and 22 and 23. All passed unanimously.
Motion to add items to the consent agenda by J.P. Duncan. Second by J.P. Simons. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those items will be added to the consent agenda. The final item on our agenda tonight is a 12-minute public comment period limited to 3 minutes per individual. And we'll open that up now. Public comments.
Elizabeth Coker, 3661 Embry Drive, Fayetteville, Arkansas. So continuing from my earlier comment, I just want to say that back in July, when this court placed the jail expansion on the November ballot for us to vote on, this court led us to believe that was for the jail. I mean, that meant we were voting for the jail. I know that, or against the jail. I know that's how I voted. I voted against the jail. I didn't vote against the tax. I voted against the jail expansion. The people of Washington County have made it clear they don't want an expanded jail. They want you to take alternatives like J.P. Washington mentioned, pretrial services, and like I mentioned, mental health court, and expand veterans court and drug court. So just as another reminder, on July 11th, J.P. Johnson said, I think it's time that we send this to the Finance and Budget Committee and ultimately to the quorum court, and that we let the taxpayers tell us if they want to build a new jail in addition to the jail in Washington County. And it's important to me that if we're going to do it, we get it done so that this can be a special election on the November ballot. And also on July 12th at the Finance and Budget, J.P. Patrick Deacon says, I think that's going to be great work for the people to decide in November whether or not this is a worthy endeavor. Sorry, it's on the next page. On July 21st, 2022, at the regular quorum court meeting, J.P. Ussery said, it's hard to justify that we need to do this, but we need to put it to the voters. And we need to be sure that we listen to all the voters, which is the challenges of a J.P. for all of us, that we have to hear the loudest, we hear the loudest voices. They're here tonight, but we've got to listen to all the voices. And that putting it before the voters and on the ballot, that's what we're going to do. We're going to listen to all the voices. Well, you haven't done that. Also, J.P. Butch Pond said at the regular quorum court meeting on July 21st, we probably don't want to forget, or we're getting ready to vote on this. We're voting to allow the people of Washington County to vote for or against this ordinance to expand the jail. It seems like for some of the discussion up to now, people actually believe we are voting for the expansion ourselves, but we don't have that authority. You didn't have the authority when there was a tax, but evidently you have the authority when you're using ARPA money.
Thank you. Additional public comments? This meeting's adjourned.